All right, round three comes to me, Tom Vassell, Board Game Jesus, and/or John Theismann, however you want to call me. But this is a very apropos topic, very well appropriate, I guess. I don't want to get out over my skis with weird words. But as we approach the Halloween season, we thought it would be nice to talk about games that you find a little cringy, games that get under your skin a little bit. Maybe the theme just doesn't quite hit you. Maybe it pushes you the other way instead. Maybe it's so that's what we were kind of doing here. What are the cringy games out there? What kind of themes do you try to shy away from? Maybe you don't even notice it until you think about what games you like or don't like. Say, oh, I don't like these kind of games. Well, for me, actually, I really like a lot of different themes. If the theme is done well, I usually like it, but there are ones that I shy away from. And for me, it's going to be ones that are like overly gruesome for no reason, maybe. Because I mean, even though I do like some kind of appropriate gore, like an Abomination. I mean, that's that as far down the road as I'll go. As Abomination is that kind of gore, it's kind of gory, but it's still a fake story. You know what I'm saying? And so you can still lose yourself and immerse yourself into a fantasy fake story about it. But that, and then Daniel had pointed out last year about just overtly occult and maybe even like summoning demon kind of stuff. I mean, some references to magic aren't that bad, but when you're like really motivated to do things like that, it's in the game. It's something that puts me off. And as kind of as an example to the overly cringiness of it, I used to own which one was that? The Letters to Whitechapel, which is kind of a Fury of Dracula type game where it's hidden movement, but it's based on Jack the Ripper. And since I'd played with a group that we used to play Scotland Yard a lot. I'm like, this is Scotland Yard on steroids. We're going to love it. My sister took one look at it and said, I am never playing this game. And actually, the more I was diving into it, I mean, I can see why. I mean, it's you're literally playing as people from the historical record that were investigators that were trying to capture him. You're reading actual letters from Whitechapel, letters from the Jack the Ripper. So it's like it's a lot of it might be a little too real. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a fantasy thing based on it. It's like all the real historical stuff, and it's done in a gruesome way. And while I would probably play it, I couldn't find anybody to play it. So I traded it, Chris. I should have brought it to you. We should have played it. But I traded
Correct
it.
again. This sounds like a game I want to play. Like I'm pretty sure me and my wife would love playing that. She like watching all the weird Dateline things and learning about all these axe murderers. She'd love that game. So
let's have to review the footage from last year when we talked about Dead Man's Cabal, because you said that you had an issue with games like that, but I'm pretty sure I was ridiculed for my take on that one.
That's what I was saying. I was saying I understand that, but that one it's you're not really that one. It's so silly to me is why I can understand why you'd have issue with the imagery and stuff like that, but
it's because you're actually manipulating the pentagram. That was what I didn't like.
I got
it went too far for me. But I'll get into that one.
I understand.
If it has a goofy design, John's okay with anything. So it's like, it could be just as silly cannibalism is fine, but serious cannibalism isn't.
Donner Dinner Party, probably pretty fun game.
There you go.
All right. So, So the cringy things for me, honestly, there's only two games that I can even think of that really upset me. And there are two games that are highly kind of polarizing. One's way more known than the other. The one that's well known is Kingdom Death Monster. So the game itself, from everything I've ever heard, actually sounds super interesting, super fantastic, and much better than Gloomhaven. But what its problem is, the designers, they had to make it too graphic and graphic in regards to like sex more than like violence and stuff. And there is certainly for violence as well, but like it's just unnecessary. And that's what bothers me. Like if it's tasteful and it makes sense with the situation, even then people are like, well, there's still no need for it. Okay, yeah, I don't disagree with you. You're right. But at least if it makes sense, it's fine. But everything I've ever seen about that game is it's just unnecessary. It's just over the top. And it has put me off of the game. Granted, there's a lot of other things like the amount of time investment and cost and all the different stuff is part of it as well. But what put me over the top for not even exploring those things is just how unnecessarily graphic the imagery is. So I will say that, and which then leads me to the other one that's less well known. But Andy famously pulled it up on his screen last episode, and that's the game called Night Shift. It's a game about, girls who work the night. So that's all cringy thing. But honestly, and maybe that makes me a bad person, the fact that it has to be those two games for me for it to upset me. But everything else, like, either I just don't care or it doesn't bother me. So I guess it's gonna have to be extremely overly graphical sexual content for me to be put off, apparently.
I'm glad you have a line somewhere, Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all right. Speaking of overly graphic sexual content, could you button that shirt up a little bit?
Absolutely not.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I'm blind. I can't do this if I can't see the teleprompter. Oh my gosh. Okay. So games that make me cringe or cringy themes. You know, the one that I'm surprised, when I found out I was going third, I was like, oh, this will already be covered by the time it gets to me, but apparently it hasn't. And sorry if I'm stealing it from you, Daniel. And that is, it's an awesome game. It's always fun, but the name just puts people off a little bit if they don't know what we're talking about. That is Secret Hitler. You know, it's such a wonderful social deduction game. It may be the best one ever made, but it's got the name Hitler in it. And, you know, that's just, we're probably going to be censored on YouTube because I just said it twice. That's how controversial it is. Unfortunately, that's the bad thing about that game is, like, I want to tell people to play it. And it's really actually quite funny because I play a lot of my games with international students. And I've probably said this on past board game shows here on Around the Board, but we bring in people from all these different countries and they're like, let's play Secret Hitler. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. It is a fun game. It's so fun, but obviously a very controversial theme a little bit. And it's also interesting sometimes to play with people because they immediately assume the two factions in that game are going to be fascists and liberals. And what people don't realize is that historically, traditional liberals are not liberal progressively in the American political sense now. So people immediately assume, like, oh, well, you're either a liberal or they associate, like, you fascists have to be, you know, Trump supporters or super conservatives. And I hate having to explain that again, that it's like, no, that's not really what this game is about. It's from a totally different era, totally different politics. So it's a little cringy for me, but I love the game. I wish it could be rethemed. I don't know what it would be, though.
Well, I think the original Kickstarter actually had Secret Santa that they did it. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the original one was before Trump was even elected, and it was actually called Secret Trump. So you could actually go full onto that.
And everybody out there knows that it actually has been rethemed. Silly me to forget
this. I was going to bring that up.
And that is Around the Board's very own game, Secret Herod.
Correct.
Which, if you haven't played Secret Herod, send us your money. We'll get you a copy soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all jokes aside, I will have to say I never really thought about it until you brought it up, Andy. Is this the biggest misstep in board game marketing of all time? Because, like, the game is still massively popular, and how many people don't play it because of the name? Like, if they named it anything else, how much more even popular would this game be?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it puts people off as much. I just don't like talking about it in public settings because it's just, you know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't get, it's hard to get to the table. Like, hey, you guys want to play a game about Hitler? No. Yeah. Right. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's named anything else, this game's even way more popular.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of Secret Herod, I did notice that Daniel had another costume change. Is this?
That's right.
Is this Herod now?
Yeah, I'm a Sunday school actor is what I am. This is what I wear when I have to be a Bible character at my Sunday school class. So
are you made of felt?
I don't know. And this wig is the word. Like,
you look like the woman at the well.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe
go and sin no more.
Exactly.
Honestly, this costume is titled Jesus. This is technically Jesus.
So we have Jesus and board game Jesus.
Wow.
Which I'm glad we brought this up because now my cringy theme is gonna make is gonna be even more entertaining.
Oh my gosh!
So games that are too preachy are ones that I cringe at, and that could be because I'm a Christian here. We're all Christians, and we've all came across some games that were like, "Why did you make this, Christian people? Like, stop doing this. You're embarrassing all of us." And they're usually poorly made too. But
Right.
there is some on the other side as well. You can get into some scenarios where people who are very worldly and who are very, counter to what I would normally consider, my beliefs and whatever, who can be equally as preachy. And those games, I'm just like, oh my gosh, is this really a good game? Or are you just trying to tell me how, this way of life is better? Like, I don't need that in a board game. Like I'm not going to touch that. It to me, because that means the theme is probably coming second, or the theme is coming first, which means the game is coming second. It's probably a bunch of hot trash. So that's one that I kind of cringe at. And I have another one. This may surprise you guys a little bit. Intellectual properties that are not Marvel. That are not Marvel.
So I was gonna
There
like
it is. Here we
liar.
go.
No.
In the words of John, here we go.
There we go. No, these games that just throw a theme on no matter what. You find them in the Walmarts and the Targets and stuff. Those to me feel a little like you just never know what you're gonna get. And I won't even say the Marvel ones, guys. I recently got Marvel Dagger, and I got Marvel Collateral Damage, and I got Marvel Age of Heroes. I haven't had a great experience with any of those yet. I still get excited of them. I still want to play them. I still want to own them. But trust me, I cringe just a little bit more because I'm like, man, I'm going to buy a bad game, aren't I?
If you buy them all, you definitely will at least at some point buy a bad game. Yes.
And I do buy them all.
I will give you credit on that one, Daniel. Too many times I've run across IP games that I'm excited about because it's like, this is an IP that doesn't normally get made into a board game sometimes. Like, for instance, I saw there was one based on the book Ender's Game.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like He-Man.
He-Man.
No, like He-Man, yes. No, the book Ender's Game and Battle School. If you haven't read the book, you're missing out. It's a great sci-fi book. And actually, they did a good job with the movie. It just kind of bombed at the box office, unfortunately. But the game sucks. But I've seen others like Mega Man. I saw one for Mega Man that came out, and it's like, oh, Mega Man. I was like, oh, this game.
Yeah.
Was that play Mega Man? Colossal Kickstarter failure specifically? Like that, like the Mega Man one, I thought was like ended up being like a giant, like just disaster overall. But
it was hot garbage apparently. But it looked beautiful. And the miniatures
that's all that matters, everybody.
That's all that matters, Chris. What's wrong with you? But anyway, like Daniel, I did post this on social media as well, just to see what other people would say. And part of it might have been due to my poor wording, that I got some responses immediately that weren't what I was looking for. But so we got a lot of social and political issues being pushed and things like that. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Can just a theme that makes you just, cringy. So then I finally started getting some things, and some of them were things I had never thought about. Some of them were just war themes in general, because the United States, we're really don't have personal experience with someone invading our country or something, or even living with that fear. And so I can see where that could be, hey, I just lost 2 guys that I knew, last week. I don't want to do a war game, or something like that. Whereas we are so used to putting in context of Risk and World War II games and all that of our whole lives that we're just so desensitized to it. I think it just doesn't, we can,
good point.
We can what do they call that? Compartmentalize it a little bit more, I think.
Compartmentalize even.
Thank you. That's what it is. Another one, this is one I do agree with, though, is the NSFW, which I had to look up what NSFW was. I knew what it meant, but I didn't know what it stood for. So it's not suitable for work. I'm like,
right, yeah.
That's what I found out. So I knew what it meant, like off color crud and stuff like that. Anything that you wouldn't do at work apparently is what it is. And I totally agree with that. Any Cards Against Humanity or any of that crud. Oh, please.
Oh, yeah.
The dark version of this or that or this and After Dark or whatever. No
I almost went down the path of making my segment about Cards Against Humanity. Because to me, Cards Against Humanity, the problem with it is, well, first of all, it's apples to apples with an X-rated theme, and I don't like apples to apples to begin with. It's just subjective crap. But the thing with Cards Against Humanity is it's like a stand-up comic that relies on just dropping F-bombs to get laughs. It's lazy. It's lazy humor. Anyway, sorry.
Another one is people think Pandemic's a little too real these days. They don't like to play Pandemic. People have a problem with zoos. They don't like incarcerating animals.
Oh, okay. I was like, were they bit by the monkeys or something? How are they going to set up the zoo? No, I got you.
I thought you said Zeus, like the god Zeus.
That was the next one. Zeus.
We've offended some Romans.
They got a problem with Travis Kelce.
Yes. This is one I agree with. The inappropriate anime in some games where it's just
Oh my
like,
gosh.
these overly done girls or whatever.
Yeah, that was actually going to be mine. It's Tanto Koro is like the prime one. It's like it's a deck building game where you are anime maids. And you're just trading maids and you're trying to get them into your room, and that's how you cull the
my
deck.
gosh. Yeah.
It's
that's a little
pretty
cringy.
disturbing.
Did you say maids or mates?
Maids. People who
That's going to be his
serve
next costume. You'll see.
Oh dear.
you. Machitaro right here.
He's gonna wear his night shift outfit.
I got just a couple more drug related ones where you're like a drug pusher or something like that. Then I forgot this game was even made. There was a game made about the H.H. Holmes murder hotel.
Oh,
And, he was like the first verified serial killer in the United States, and he was killing people during the Chicago World's Fair and all that. And it took forever. It's way back then, so you could get away with stuff. And it's a pretty gruesome story. Of course, games about poop. You can't have too many of those. But I think that's about cliche cartoon characters in a dungeon crawl. I don't know. That sounded like that was a specific game they probably had in mind, but I think just having a cutesy theme along with the dungeon crawl they didn't like. But that was the best of those.
Another one I'm surprised didn't get mentioned in the comments, because I know some people do really get offended by this kind of stuff, is games that focus. There's a lot of period piece games, and so there's a lot of stuff that has ties to colonialism and that sort of thing.
Well, that was mentioned. I said that was part of the ones I didn't want to talk about. So
I'm sorry. Well, here I am ruining that.
Thanks for bringing. Do you want to talk about some more political issues while we're at it, or do we want to?
Yeah, let's talk about peanut butter and jelly versus or pineapple on pizza.
Anyway, what do you out there find cringeworthy? Is it something that we can talk about on the air, or something that we'll just read in your comments? So,
or is it
let us know what you think, and let us know what you think Daniel's going to dress up as next, and make sure you like and subscribe while you're at it.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Daniel.
Thank you for watching this clip from Around the Board. If you'd like to watch the full episode, please click on the link down below. Around the Board is essentially a game show featuring 4 board game enthusiasts that discuss board game topics and news in a competitive format. Whoever wins gets to talk about whatever he wants at the end of the show. So please join us, won't you, Around the Board.